It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name's Sammy James. Welcome to the show. And Fulham are not on the beach, are we? 2 victories in a row, this time against Leeds United at the Cottage. The first win in the league at Craven Cottage since February. So it was a nice day out for everyone who attended SW6 yesterday. Is the European dream back on? Maybe not, but we could be Kings of West London, and that would be a nice way to finish this season. It was also a much needed win ahead of 3 very difficult fixtures. It's not looking great for Leeds, is it? Are they falling apart again? Here to discuss everything that happened in yesterday's match and preview Tuesday's game against Aston Villa is Drew Heatley. Hello.
Hello.
Isabel Barker. Hello.
Hi, Sammy. Thanks so much for having me on.
Pleasure. And Farrell Monk. Hello.
Hello.
Izzy, we can't start the podcast without congratulating you for your win in the Muay Thai, your debut in Muay Thai. Is it unanimous decision?
Yeah.
You absolutely punched their lights out. How did it feel?
I mean, it's been all that practice of scrapping Brentford fans and Chelsea fans that really made me win it, I think. But no, it was great. It was so much fun. I got a proper black eye afterwards. I still kind of got a little one. My nose, I think, is actually a little bit broken, but it's all character building. And great practice for next season's scraps that I'm going to get into, I'm sure.
Can't wait. Remind me never to piss you off. Next time we're down the pub, I'm going to be really extra nice just in case you lose it and start kicking me around the pub. If you want to see Izzy's kind of winning moment in this fight, just go to Izzy's Twitter at Isabel Latifa. I'm watching it now. I'm just watching her kick 7 shades of shit out some girl in a blue top. It's really fun.
We both had bloody noses by the end of it, and none of the lads had any blood or anything. So I think our fight was actually fight of the night, the only women's fight. So yeah, I would actually recommend watching it. It's very entertaining.
Obviously, apart from Izzy, who do you think would win in a Fulhamish Muay Thai boxing match? I'm talking about Fulhamish contributors here, not the Fulham team. I'm not going to go up against Alexander Mitrovic.
We're not an hard lot, are we, to be fair? I think Izzy's the only hard one among us.
I know, I'm struggling a bit.
I think Cam Ramsey would fight quite well.
That's a great shout.
Yeah,
that's a great shout.
Good shout.
All guns blazing. Yeah, I'd go Cam.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Jack Kelly, Dom Betts.
Yes.
That would be the undercard, wouldn't it? That would be like the first one where they...
I'm the better away day fan.
Yeah, all leading up to the Cam Ramsey, Isabel Barker main event. Wow, maybe that should be the next Fulhamish event. More details on that coming up. All right, let's get back to some 3-word reviews from yesterday's win over Leeds. Farrell, what came in?
There's some really good ones. I'll start off with one thing that came up on a little while ago was, I can't remember who exactly it was. They were saying that some American was like, if you're getting into the Premier League, you need to support Leeds because they're the American team in the league. Now they had like a couple of players in there, which was actually really, really unknowledgeable, if you can say, because obviously Fulham America is definitely alive and well. So shout outs to Matt Pollard's America's team confirmed. Ari Odds's Our Americans Better. Love those. M's very good. Season treble completed now that we've got our 3rd win over Leeds this season. Lindsay's Leading West London with a nice little touch with the double E in the middle of Leading. Very good. But and I'll finish off with Fulham home runs with Muchos Gracias Javi.
Very nice. Interesting that you mentioned the treble. I was a bit bored walking to the Duke of Cornwall after the game yesterday, and I saw, we've beaten them 3 times, double in the league, and then obviously knocked them out of the cup. It must have been years since we've done this to another team, and then remembered that it actually happened last season. We did the treble over Birmingham We beat them in the League
Right,
Cup,
yes.
and then we did the double over them in the league. So then I was like, well, it's got to be years since we've done it in the Premier League. And actually, you only have to go back to 13-14. The season that we got relegated, we did a treble over Norwich. We knocked them out the FA Cup, and we did the double over them in the league that season. So I was like, oh, maybe it isn't that special. It felt special anyway.
Have we ever done a 4? Have we ever done a 4? A League Cup and an FA Cup?
No.
I mean, maybe back in time, but that's got to be pushing it. Surely the odds on doing
or a
that
or a playoff run. I don't know, or something like, we play them in the, maybe Cardiff or someone like that. Could be.
Feels like we might have whipped Cardiff a few times in the same season.
But then I remember when we beat Cardiff in the playoffs, we actually lost the second leg at home, even though we made the final. True. So yeah, if anyone knows of a time we've done a quadruple over a team, then give us a shout. Drew, a great win, much needed. I think the last couple of weeks have just been really, really pleasant for us to arrest this slide, and particularly with tough games coming up. Villa's tough. Man City's obviously tough. Liverpool away is tough. To get us up to 45 points just gives us breathing space now. And those next 3 games are kind of free hits a little bit, or certainly no pressure on those 3 games. But yeah, a well-deserved victory, I thought.
Yeah, and it's I'm a big advocate for getting points in the bag ahead of sort of difficult runs. And you look at those 2 games, Everton and Leeds, and you think, well, we definitely need to do that. We've managed to do just that. We've reached 45 points faster than any other season in history for us in the Premier League. We could have done it. We could have beaten 40, could have done that in the fastest time, but we sort of stalled somewhat. So now I think the sky is officially the limit in terms of final points total, because we've never been in this position before. It's interesting. Obviously, Villa up next. They sort of faltered, so I'm slightly more confident going into those run of 3 games than I would have been before. I think we can all write off City, but we know that Liverpool will get at Anfield. So yeah, it's nice to be looking at the table again, because I think when we were all looking at the table and looking at all the different minutiae and different things that we could be doing to maybe get into European places or whatever, finish as high up the table as possible. And then when you get the run that we had where we're losing 4 or 5 on the spin, you just stop looking at the table and you just, there's no point. So it's nice to be glancing back at the Premier League table again on a work day when you're bored, seeing what could be.
Izzy, let's go back to the starting lineup. Not a great sign for Carlos Vinicius that he's now not even the 3rd choice back up to Alexander Mitrovic. I think the pecking order is now fully set, that it's probably going to be Dan James back in, you'd imagine, for the Villa game, considering how well he played against Everton. But Bobby Reid did a job yesterday. Yeah, I think we now know what Marco really thinks about Carlos Vinicius, because if you're not starting under these circumstances, then it's not looking good.
Exactly that. That's exactly the kind of take I've got on it, because having been in kind of all of Marco Silva's recent press conferences, it seems only weeks ago he was saying, Vinicius is the replacement. He's the one I've got my faith in. We've got to give him a few games. He's shown what he can do against the likes of Chelsea and Brighton with that kind of assist. And now, to see him not even be 3rd choice, it just seems like he's really fallen out of favour under Silva. Silva saw him 100% as the man to replace Mitro in terms of not just, in terms of how it kind of fitted our system mainly. I would say that for the Villa game, it would be Dan James coming back in. I didn't think Bobby did anything wrong or anything like that. I just think the performance of Dan James against Everton was just a bit better. And obviously you can't really match his pace or anything like that. So I guess he would come in for the next game, but not looking good for Vinicius. And it's just a frustrating one, isn't it? It must be frustrating for the staff that have to work with him, but it also is for fans, because it kind of seems like history repeating itself. These glimmers of moments of, amazing moments like the Chelsea one, and then it just peters out, and it kind of makes you think what could have been with him. So a sad state there with Vinicius.
Farrell, it was a slow first half, I think is fair to say. Barely anything happened. Fulham were the better team, and you could tell that, fine, this is okay. But I went down for my beer on 43 minutes and probably could have gone 10 minutes earlier and I would have missed absolutely nothing more. It was one of those sleepy, snoozy 12:30 kickoff first halves, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I was still kind of pleased with the performance, really, because we certainly, were the better team in that first half without actually creating too many things. But we were creating opportunities and we were sort of dominating the game and controlling. I mean, Marco Silva always talks about controlling the game, and I think that Fulham were doing that. And I think that we just hadn't quite taken advantage of the fact that Leeds were pretty poor on the day. We just needed to just turn it on a little bit more in the second half, as we actually have seen quite often this season as well. We have tended to be more of a second half team, and that's really worked. It was very sort of reminiscent in some ways, the style of the Everton game, naturally with a Deco Dover-Reid up top instead of Dan James, in the fact that we were finding opportunities to sort of get into good positions out wide and get more 1v1s up against their fullbacks, which Willian was doing plenty on the left-hand side, and a big shout out to Harry Wilson on the right-hand side, who really had Woba all sewn up and everything. A quick note on that is, like, I don't understand how Woba wasn't booked much earlier than he actually was, than whenever, I think the 70th minute or something, considering Paulinho got a booking straight from the off on his first foul, and Woba picked up 5 fouls before he got his first yellow card, is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, I was pleased. I think there were opportunities there. I thought Pereira was very good. But yeah, echoing what Izzy was just saying before, I think Deco Dover-Reid was good, but probably not as good as Dan James was last weekend. So we'll probably see him in next week. But yeah, sleepy first half, but the opportunities were coming.
Yeah, I found it hilarious with Woba that he was arguing the yellow card. I was like, come on, man. Like, you should have had one about an hour ago. Like, I think you should just shut up and just accept it. Like, you've been fouling all day, mate. Calm down. Drew, Harry Wilson's goal is lovely. Anthony Robinson deserves a big amount of credit. And even Meslier deserves a big amount of credit as well, because 2 assists for him yesterday. Lovely to get a little bit of help from the opposition. But I mean, it was a mistake from Meslier, but that wasn't an easy finish from Harry Wilson. And he certainly went for the spectacular. He maybe could have slotted it home a little bit easier than he did, but it looked great. And I love that Harry Wilson is back. And it's not just the goals. Of course, they've been great, but also I just feel like we really are a better team when Harry Wilson's on form.
Yeah, and you can see just how crucial confidence is to a player like Harry Wilson. Like, he got back to physical fitness, in a decent amount of time, considering. But when you saw him come back, he was lacking that confidence, which then sort of he loses almost a mental yard and all of these different things that has a knock-on effect, and you can just see it. And for me, the finish yesterday was just proof of how that confidence has been topped back up to the 90 to 100% range, because, as you say, it could have gone so far. It was paper thin. It could have gone so badly wrong if it had gone off the upper end of the crossbar instead of going straight back down into the goal. So, but the fact that he had the poise and the technique and thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a little bit of welly, just proves that he's got that confidence back. And yeah, we are much better with him in the side, firing on all cylinders. And it's just nice to fire up the old song again, because all the elements are finally coming back. And who knows, one day we might actually have them all at the same time.
It will be, and I'm really sorry that someone sent this in and I can't attribute them. If I find it before the end of the podcast, I will. But Harry Wilson, Mitrovic and Neeskens haven't played with each other since the 7-0 against Luton at the end of last season. So by the time that Mitrovic returns, May the 13th, it'll be over a year since we've had Harry Wilson, Mitrovic and Neeskens.
We better hear the loudest rendition of the ABBA song ever, because Harry Wilson, when I interviewed him after the match on Saturday, said he heard the ABBA song. He actually said that, and he said he loved hearing it. So hopefully when we have them all back together, it will be the loudest rendition and the best rendition ever, because they deserve it.
How was he after the match? I imagine he must be over the moon, is he?
He was brilliant. It was so nice talking to them, because they just seem like, they really feel like the season's got back on track. Spoke to Anthony Robinson as well. It's just a really good mood in camp. They're saying that, the biggest setback for them is Mitro being out, but actually Mitro's so involved behind the scenes, helping them out so much, mentally and physically, that I think they're all just kind of reaping the good effects of that. And Wilson's in a great mood because he's a boyhood Wrexham fan as well. So he was telling me after the game, he was like, I'm going to sit on the settee, get my food out, watch the Wrexham game with the lads or whatever. So yeah, he's loving life at the minute. He was trying they were trying to get tickets or something, but I think they were like gold dust, and obviously he wouldn't have made it anyway. But yeah, he's loving life.
Maybe him and Gordon Davis had a few chats about Wrexham as a former Wrexham player.
Maybe Wilson will do a bit of a Ben Foster and just go play miles below his level and head to League 2 next season, so he can be in season 3 of Welcome to Wrexham. He just wants to hang out with Ryan and Rob. He probably could be Ryan Reynolds' best friend if he fancied doing that. I mean, he'd have to probably take a considerable pay cut, and it wouldn't be the best career move probably, but he definitely could make it into season 3. Oh, what a day for Harry Wilson, and congratulations to anyone else associated with Wrexham. Amazing achievement for them to be back in the EFL. Farrell, the second goal was weird. It just was like, yay! What? It just fell to Andres Pereira, and the easiest goal anyone's ever scored at the Hammersmith end. I was just waiting for it to get disallowed because it just looked simple and weird. But once again, it's a fantastic assist from Illan Meslier. We got to hand it to him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know which one was worse or better. I've got to say, and he does come into a lot of stick with his crossing ability, but I thought that Anthony Robinson cross was actually excellent, and it was literally in that area where either Decordova-Reid is going to try and get there. Obviously, it was just a bit too high for him, or Meslier didn't know exactly what to do with it. And I think that that coming from that cross, Jedi should get a lot of credit for the goal, as well as Pereira doing his best to slam it as hard as he could from 3 yards out. But it was like everything leading up to it. Marcus Silva, I think, also said in his post-match comments around we needed to be better at winning the second balls. And that's where it came from. It's not just Jedi's cross. It's it starts off 3 passes prior to that when, I don't know who it was, on the right-hand side, winning the ball in a high area, and then Pereira picks it up in the middle of the park, and he's got acres of space to run into. We totally exploited that gap in between defence and midfield that they were allowing us while Leeds were trying to get back into the game. And I think it's not just the cross. It's not just that. It's also everything that comes with it that they've been working on the training ground. And it was great, and it was a weird moment for sure. I was thinking about, same as you, Sammy, that for some reason it looked like he wasn't about to take the shot because he thought it was going to be offside or something like that. But yeah, great, went in, wonderful.
Yeah, Drew, I've been looking back at our pre-season predictions that myself, Jack and Peter did on the Thursday Club, and one of the categories was second top scorer. Peter said Manor Solomon, and Jack said Bobby Decordova-Reid, who are joints for second top scorer. I said Andreas Pereira, so I need Andreas Pereira to chip in with a few more goals before the for the end of the season. There's some good and bad takes in those.
Yeah,
that's his 4th league goal.
Okay,
well, Solomon's on 5 then, and so Bobby Decordova-Reid must also be on 5. So that's not too bad.
No. It's quite, it's getting interesting for the end of the season.
Would you be annoyed if Pereira goes on a massive scoring run and then he actually finishes top goal scorer and you don't win your little prediction?
Oh yeah, no, I know that. He's got a long way to go. I mean, he's currently on 4 and he needs to get to 11. I mean, I'd probably take it for the sake of losing the Fulhamish bet. I'd probably the benefit of him scoring a load of goals would probably be worth the trade. But yeah, we'll have to see. Drew, Leeds got back into it. It was annoying. It was a weird goal, and I felt like maybe Fulham fans had slight egg on their faces because I think it was Rocker who couldn't take a corner to save his life, and we were all taking the mickey out of him because he kept hitting the first man. So much so that the Fulham crowd were like, "Oi!" every time that Leeds passed the ball. It then ended up in the back of the net, and not maybe the Hammersmith end's finest moments there.
It's funny how you feel a bit of embarrassment and shame, isn't it? We were talking in the stand as it was going on, like the most juvenile things that happen in football that are really funny. So that Olayin every time, like, you know, after a few crap corners or like jeering the goalkeeper, you're shit. So many like ridiculously juvenile things in football. They're just so funny. And then obviously they go and put it in, and you kind of, it's like you've been told off by your parents with your mate round, and you're just sort of like, oh, just a little bit ashamed. But I think it went down as a Paulinho own goal in the end, didn't it? Which I'm pretty happy about, because I can't stand Bamford. I'm not sure why. Don't ask me why. Just his face winds me up. So I'm glad he didn't get the goal. Luckily, it didn't matter. There was never a point in the game where I felt like Leeds had any sort of skin in the game at all. Really, we were so much in control, that as dull as the first half was. So it was even with 8 minutes injury time at the end, it was kind of odd, because you just stop looking. If you have 3 minutes injury time and you're 2-1 up, it's nervy. If it's 8, it's basically like 82 minutes, and you just stop looking. So it was even towards the end, I was never particularly concerned, and I don't know whether that's the underlying thing of we're safe, so the jeopardy's gone a little bit. I don't think that's true, because I still do want to win every game. So it was a strangely comfortable afternoon despite conceding.
Yeah, we are reasonable at holding out a lead. It's been quite a common theme, it feels like, this season, where we've been maybe a couple of goals up, conceded that like consolation goal, and then had to work for the victory. I can think back to that Brighton win earlier this season. We did it at Forest. Leeds at Ellen Road, we did it as well, where they scored with like a minute to go and made it unnecessarily nervy for themselves. I'm sure there's a couple of other examples in there as well. Izzy, what did you make of Leeds? I thought that they were... I couldn't actually know. I don't know what I thought about them. I kind of was like, I always thought Fulham had the beating of them. I thought that ultimately we had better quality. But then again, there were some dangerous players on that pitch who just didn't quite click for them, really, did it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just overall a really important win for us, because actually I think Leeds players, and it's seeping down to the fan base as well, they just seem like they don't have the stomach to kind of fight for their Prem survival. You know, me and my dad's back from the Cayman Islands, and we were really looking forward to the atmosphere that kind of Leeds fans bring. But even, you know, at the very least, Leeds fans will tell you your support is fucking shit. And I felt like even they weren't even chanting that much. And it just felt like it was just really flat from the fans to the players. So it was really important that we got that win. And I'd watched them against Palace. I'd reported on that game where it was 5-1, but at the start they had a really blistering start and things like that. But they just didn't even really have that against us either. You know, they just seemed sleepy. And I'm glad that we saw out the win. I think it made us show that we've got, I know we do make it a bit difficult for ourselves, but we're just showing we're more mature than when we last were in the Prem. You know, I think if that was us against Leeds before when we were in the Prem, we could have, you know, ended up drawing that game or even losing it. And we're just showing this kind of extra level of maturity, which the players are saying as well. Anthony Robinson was saying the exact same thing. We just look way more mature than we did under the likes of Scott Parker. And it was an important win for us against Leeds, against a very wounded Leeds side. And I think we could see them getting relegated back to the Championship, to be honest, because their fans were chanting about the board and you know, the board at the club, getting rid of them, and they were chanting for Marcelo Bielsa back. So it seems like it's not looking good for them, and they could be back to the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is a fight just to not be the three worst teams. If someone like Leeds, if Leeds or Everton or Forest stay up, I don't know if you can take any glory out of it. It's literally just you were not quite as bad as the others. And I'm sure they'll celebrate it and they're entitled to. But my word, there is some absolute dross down there. I mean, Farrell, you look at that team and like there's impressive players on the pitch. I really like Brendan Harrison. I think he's a wonderful player. I thought that McKennie was going to be a great signing for them. He was someone I wanted Fulham to get. But also you look at the player like Willie Gnonto not being on the pitch, Sinisterra not being on the pitch. I mean, that's just bizarre in a game that you had to win. And Fulham right now are one of the teams I feel like you want to play. I know that we're doing all right and we are proving that we're not on the beach, but we're not going for the league, we're not going for Europe, we're not staying up. And so I think if you're putting in meek performances like that against us and not playing your best players, that's a bit strange.
I think there's certainly an element of like when I was watching the game yesterday and I kind of was looking at the way some of their players and the way that they were playing, that they just weren't showing their quality. Like, I think that some of those Leeds players have the ability to do something, but they just weren't showing it. But then you look at it in comparison to the Fulham team, and actually, when you compare it man for man, I can't really see any of the Fulham players not getting in a combined Fulham Leeds team over the other one. Like, Kenny Tete is better than Christensen, for example, and Tosin, the way he's playing at the moment, he was again another brilliant performance that seems to have come out of nowhere. What a redemption arc for him. I want to know what happened between Diop and Marco Silva that meant that Diop magically got dropped from the team. But yeah, he played better than both Liam Cooper and Robin Koch. What was weird for me was the fact that their best player, by some distance, I feel like Nonto, was not on the pitch for a significant proportion of that game. And it just shows that, with the new manager coming in, I don't know how many games he's had now, Gracia, but he's obviously not entirely settled on what team is actually going to get them out of this particular rut. And it's a very deep rut that they're in at the moment. They need something to go their way and regain some confidence. But yeah, you're right. There are some quality players, but I just don't think that any of them really are actually comparable to the Fulham quality and the quality that Fulham have at their disposal.
No, although if Willie Nonto fancies a little move to SW6 just to add to our nice collection of wingers, that'd be a fun one in the summer, wouldn't it? Just come join the fun where we do step overs for fun. Motspur Park. Their next games are against Leicester and Bournemouth for Leeds. Absolutely massive. Although the definition of 6 pointers.
Although Nonto, when he did come on, still couldn't get the better of Kenny Tete. Kenny Tete in 1v1 situations is just sublime. I was almost, every time a winger comes up against Kenny Tete, I want him to take him on, because I feel like, we're just going to win the ball back. That's great. Thank you for giving us possession. Thank you. Well done, Kenny.
Yeah. I'd love to see maybe Tete against Mbappe. Like, really, how far can we push his 1v1 ability? Can we make that happen? Might need to qualify for the Champions League, but he just is sensational, isn't it? Those one-on-ones. Right, we're going to take a break there. Afterwards, we're going to answer some of your questions. Part 2 of the Fulhamish podcast. It is Sammy here with Drew, Izzy and Farrell. We have very exciting news. Fulhamish Live is back. We are heading back to the Half Moon in Putney on the 8th of May after the Leicester game between 6 and 8 p.m. We went there last season after we lost to Coventry. Probably not a great omen. Hopefully we'll have a win to talk about this time. It'll be a live recording of the podcast at the Half Moon, which is a fantastic venue, and we would love you to come along. It's pretty limited tickets at the Half Moon. It isn't the world's biggest space. So if you want to get your tickets, head to fulhamish.co.uk. There will be a link there. Then you head to the Half Moon's website in order to buy the tickets. Advanced tickets are £9. So we'd love you to come along, celebrate with us. Hopefully what will be a victory. We'll have a couple of special guests. We'll do a live version of everyone's favourite This Will Catch On as well. So head to fulhamish.co.uk. The link's on our socials as well. And the link will be there to the Half Moon website where you can purchase the tickets from. And we would love to see you live for a Fulhamish podcast. It's always one of our favourite things to do every year. We managed to blag a date after the Leicester game. Thank you to the Half Moon for fitting us in after that game got rearranged. So really hope that you can make it. Tickets sold pretty quick last year, so please do get on it if you want to come. We will be extremely excited to see you down there. If you can't make it down there though, you'll be able to listen to that podcast afterwards, just like normal. Let's look at some of your questions. Let's discuss something that we were discussing in the break just now. PK says, how likely do we think it is that Polinia gets a third ban? And on that basis, should we manage his matches until the end of the season? So, Farrell, he picked up his 11th yellow card yesterday. And we asked, what on earth is the punishment if you get to 15 yellow cards? Turns out no one's ever done it. Do you want to share your findings from your very quick Google?
I've closed that tab because I didn't know we were going to go to that. But there's actually quite a lot of people who have got 14 yellow cards in in a season. Former Fulham favourite Olivier Dacour got 14 and 13 yellow cards for Everton and Leeds one season. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of people on 14, but no one's hit the magic 15. And just considering that not much is riding on Fulham's season unless we have like a late surge to the European spots, then I'm kind of like, why don't we go for the record? Go on, Paulinho. I mean, to be honest, he could get a yellow card for anything. He could get a yellow card for looking at the referee the wrong way, considering his yellow card yesterday. So he could very well do it.
Someone, we're terrible at giving attribution this week, but somebody, I think it might have been at the Fulhamish Read Table, somebody called it the Paulinho tax. It was Jack Kelly on the quick take. There you go. I think he's got that at the moment, doesn't he? Like, he's on 11 cards. I think, rightly or wrongly, he's getting a sort of a reputation, which I find really strange because I do find him such an interesting player because he's got that precision in his locker. But I think when you tackle as much as João Paulinho tackles in throughout a season, you're going to win some, you lose some. But he's got 7 games left to get 4 cards. I mean, that'd be an impressive return if he manages it. But I'm kind of, you want to see how far you can go, don't you? Now, like now we know that 14 is the limit. Do you want him to go where no man has gone before?
There's like looking at that list. There's a very sort of João Paulinho-esque sort of style to it in terms of like once you rack up like 8 or 9 yellow cards, then the target's on your back in that regards. Because it's like players like Lee Catamol is unsurprisingly on that list of 14 yellow cards. The one that actually surprised me was Mark Hughes got 14 yellow cards in a season, which you have to do quite a lot as a striker to get 14 yellow cards in a single season. What terror for defences.
But there is, like, you can look at the Premier League's rules. There is no clarification on what happens if it's 15 yellow cards, as far as I can see on the Premier League website. So they just clearly haven't factored for it. I'm sure they'll think of something to punish a Fulham player.
They'll be like, back again.
Yeah. Interestingly, on the yellow card thing, no Fulham player now can get a ban for too many yellow cards because it's up into the 32nd game. Pereira, is the closest to getting a ban. He's got 8 yellow cards, but if he got one in his next game, that would be a 9th, and then he goes over the threshold. So fortunately, no more yellow card bans, it seems, for Fulham, unless Paulinho reaches the magic 15. I mean, it would be funny, but then when he misses the first 3 games of next season because he gets given some special ban, then we won't be laughing. So yeah, maybe avoid it, Paulinho. Although I think he can... Surely he can control himself to not get a yellow card in more than 50% of his remaining matches. But he has got a penchant for picking them up. Izzy, Andrew Henderson asks, I think this is a really interesting point. Is Leno a strong candidate for player of the season? Another couple of big saves yesterday. There's been all these stats going around about how Leno has had one of the most impressive 1v1 records in Premier League history this season, which is an astonishing statistic. And yeah, I mean, ask me a few months ago, I'd have probably told you that Paulinho was a shoo-in. But with Leno's recent performances, again, like yesterday, another great couple of stops and so assuring at the back, he's got to be right up there. If he's not in the top 3, it's a travesty.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, quite a few press conferences, I've asked Marco the same questions about Leno because time and time again, he just produces, red hot performances that have seen us see out games. That crucial save has made sure that it's been a win where before it would have been a draw or even a loss and things like that. He's so calm under pressure, but it's just about the journey he's had at the club. It just seems like that it's been a perfect fit, Fulham and Leno together. Fulham's breathed new life into him. He was really just mentally not in a great place when he left, how it ended with Arsenal. And when he's come to Fulham, it's just the family feel apparently has made him just feel really kind of at home at the club. And he's obviously, you can see how confident he is. He's got a great relationship with Silva. And I really think, it's the start of a brilliant few seasons together, hopefully. And he's just been so good this season. And he really feels like Fulham is his home. And we can see that in his performances. So cool, calm and collected. And he's just been brilliant for us this season.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't necessarily get some of the recognition that like Areola got, because I don't think he has to make 15 saves a game. I think the only game where I'm like, he absolutely made world-class save after world-class save was maybe Leicester away. But it's just the fact that every game, Farrell, he makes like 1 or 2 big saves. And therefore, I think he doesn't get the headlines sometimes because he didn't save Fulham single-handedly. It's not like Mark Crosley at Newcastle kind of stuff, but it's just those one or two massive moments every game that is just getting us, has got us countless points this season.
Yeah, maybe that's reflective of how the team are performing defensively, that there is only one or two times that he's called upon. But when he is called upon, it's he's doing more than enough. And one of the other things I really like his ability to come off the line and anticipate through balls is something that goes unnoticed as well. He cleans up quite a lot when quick strikers are bearing down on goal, and he clears up everything. And that's another sort of like string on his Lenbow, if you can say that. I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, and we're really reaping the benefits of it. Just, yeah, as Izzy was saying, hopefully this is the start of a long, beautiful friendship between Fulham fans and Bernd Leno.
Yeah, and great that he's got a song now as well. I like the Status Quo song. It works. It's good. I don't know if it's a coincidence that I saw that it went kind of viral. Wrexham fans singing it for Ben Foster after his penalty save, but that's the first I'd heard that song for a goalkeeper, and then almost like 1 week later it was Bernd Leno's song. But if that's how it came about, then all the better, because it's really good that he's got a song, and I think he appreciated it as he came down to the Hammersmith end yesterday, that he now has his a proper song of his own, not just Leno. Players love it. I think those moments where they do get a song, don't they? Drew, James Gleich asks, can we return to the Europe dreams? So you're looking at the table right now. Fulham are in 9th. We've got 45 points, 31 played. Obviously, 7th is still the European spot. Liverpool are there. 5 points ahead. It's Brighton obviously got a few games in hand. I mean, I still think it's unlikely, but...
It's unlikely, isn't it? But Brighton aren't looking at 7th, are they? So like we're looking at who's going to sort of be in that shuffle above. I'm looking, our running is kind of mixed, isn't it? I can see us getting, I can see us definitely getting at least 9 more points, and that's being sort of, I guess, realistic, not pessimistic, not optimistic, just sort of where I feel like we could be. That's not going to be enough, is it? But it would break our record points tally.
Would.
So I do think, for the record, I do think we will get 54 or more, but I don't think we'll get Europe now. But I think what we all should be focusing on is topping the South West London table, because that's a real possibility. We're in the driver's seat for that, and that's what I'd really love. If we could break our record total, we could top that little bragging rights league. And then I think, that would surpass all expectations, build in the summer without the extra pressure of Europe that might come too early. And I think that's best case scenario.
There's also the element of teams at the top either winning the Champions League, winning the FA Cup, that kind of stuff, and then there's extra places in that regard. So I think that would open up an extra spot in the league. I think I think
it's huge. It's hugely unlikely that 8th can be. I mean, we did discuss this briefly on the Thursday Club, and Peter and Jack kind of tore me apart because I thought for a while that 8th could be possible. I think you'd need. Maybe actually the only possibility could have been if Chelsea won the Champions League. But seeing as City are the only side left in the Champions League, I don't think that would open up another space. I'm pretty sure it's 7th. And the permutations for 8th are huge.
But we're only 5 points off 7.
The bottom line is that we seem to have the best feeling at the club since the days of Hodgson, where we did have a taste of Europe. It seems like we are, for the first time, on the brink of we could do that again. So that's the main thing. I think I'm not too bothered if we get Europe this season or anything like that. That'd be hugely overachieving. I think we could definitely build on it for next season, because everyone at the club is saying we've got that feel-good factor back that we had at the days of Hodgson. So I think it's looking good. We could well get a European tour next season, so it's not too disappointing if we didn't get one this season.
I personally think you look at our games, and 4 out of 7 of those games are games that Fulham have no right to win. You think Villa, the next 3, Villa away, City at home, Liverpool away. We still got to go to United on the last day of the season, who might be fighting for a Champions League spot, so that's not going to be easy. And so, as Drew said, maybe 9 points is realistic, probably 7 to 9 points. That gets you to 52. Considering that Liverpool already in 7th on 50, I think that the Europe thing's not going to happen unless we start beating the big teams. I think if we somehow got a win against City and Liverpool, then I might be like, whoa, okay, it's on. But I think we'd have to beat some pretty big fish now in order to make it. And I don't think that's that likely, in all honesty. But you never know. I mean, the way we're playing, I'm going to go into Tuesday's game with some confidence that we can go to Villa Park and upset everyone. I think we're going to be, massively not favourites for that, but you never know. At this moment, I should probably apologise, by the way, for George and Jack's horrendous maths on the Thursday Club last week, where they were there. I think Jack's words were, I think we can get 12 points out of those games, but that obviously won't be enough to eclipse 53 points when we were on 42. So I'm not sure what happened there with the old maths, but wouldn't have happened on my watch, put it that way. Let's go on to this question from Dom. He said, if we started all our trickiest players, Willian, Solomon, Cabano, Wilson, Pereira, could we set a record for amount of step-overs in a game? Farrell, I mean, again, not loads to play for in the final 7 games. This could be the kind of thing that we start doing. Just let's start breaking world records for things that mean nothing, as Dom alludes to.
Is it the modern day equivalent of the Hereford game with Marsh and Best tackling each other? You just get everybody stepping over and everyone's just having a lovely time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I just want Fulham to be meme worthy from now until the rest of the season. Considering all that. Most yellow cards in a season. Let's go for most red cards, most FA sanctions, most step overs, most hot dogs thrown onto the pitch. Anything.
Yeah. This one's a good question. I'd love to hear all your thoughts, actually. At It's Only Fulham says Willian, Wilson, Manor, Bobby, Cabano. Now, everyone is back fit. Who are our best wingers? So, let's say everyone's 100% fit, everyone's 100% in the right form. Who starts on the right and who starts on the left? Izzy, I'll start with you.
I think what you just said then, right and left, is where I have a bit of a conundrum because, it's not about, for me, it's not who's best. It's who, I don't know, who, because I love Willian and Solomon, but they're probably both really similar. And they've for years they've been really similar, trained in a really similar way and everything. But I wouldn't start them both, so I find it such a headache. I'm going to pass it on to someone else.
Oh, you backed out.
Yeah.
done the opposite of what you did in the ring last Saturday and just shied away from the challenge. Drew, Farrell.
Well, I'll go back to what we said earlier, and a fully firing Wilson has got to be in there for me, and currently Willian. But I think, Solomon, if we can keep him, is the long-term successor to Willian probably. But as it stands right now, those have got to be the two. But you get clouded by, there's the sentimentality aspect with Cabano. We've got stronger wings than an American Eagle, so it's pretty. We're spoiled for choice, really. But I'd say at the moment it would be Willian and Wilson.
Farrell,
Dan James on both sides. Now
I'm just watching.
Go Willian on the left. I love Willian. I think he's great. And Harry Wilson. It's definite recency bias, but Harry Wilson on the right. I think he's just got a little bit more to offer on that right hand side. However, not forgetting Decadover Reed as well. Like he started the season brilliantly. So yeah,
I think the mood at the minute is from the players, is what they were saying after the game, is that Wilson's not going to be dropped. He would have to do a lot to be dropped. So it seems like he's going to be starting. So I guess it's whoever starts on the other side, but which I'm happy with. Wilson's found his form at a brilliant time where we haven't got Mitro, so I'm happy with that.
I think Drew's answer of currently Wilson, Willian, but it feels so harsh to be like no to Cabano, Bobby, who's played on the wing most of the season and been fantastic, and when we know what Solomon can do, it's mad that Solomon can't get in this team at the moment. Other Premier League teams must be looking at us just keeping Solomon on the bench, bringing him on for 5 minutes. Like, what what's going on at Fulham? Man Solomon can't get a game. It's incredible. I like this one, by the way. At Rick Carter says, not a question, just an observation for Sammy, Farrell and Drew. Don't piss off Izzy. You'll regret it. With 2 boxing glove emojis. Duly noted, Rick.
Too right.
Duly noted, Rick. Thank you. It's a bit sad to bring down the tone, Farrell, of ticket prices again. There's a couple of people talking about Shahid Khan's interview in the Times yesterday at Craven the Hunter. Kind of put a spin on it. I'm not 100% sure is right. There's a lot of media attention on Wrexham's promotion with owners that care. In light of Khan's latest interview and just generally, how much do you think the Khans care? If you haven't read Shahid Khan's interview, well, I don't blame you because it's behind a paywall, which didn't seem like the world's most sensible choice. It's with Alison Rudd and Farrell. I just think actually for someone that's quite good at PR, I think the whole interview that Shahid Khan's done here just comes across really like not great at all. There's so much focus on the £3,000 tickets. There's no mention of the kind of 18% rise across the stadium. He tries to justify the £100 tickets because they sold out. He then does some awful line at the end where he says, I go grocery shopping like everyone else. It's like the 200th richest man in the world. Like, well, what are you trying to kid? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have a different opinion on it, Farrell, but I just read it and I was like, ugh, this is just like not very nice.
No, exactly. I think read the room, Shahid Khan, and in that regard, I think that from his ivory tower, which is the Craven Cottage balcony yesterday, he's not really understanding or listening or, I think he's probably really underestimating the mood amongst the fan base or whatnot. I mean, think about it this way. Shahid Khan has been at the club now for the chairman for 10 years, and which is not, it's not a short amount of time, and there are zero chants about Shahid Khan. I think that tells you how popular he is with the fan base, particularly at the moment. I do, according to his representatives, that he is definitely aware, especially with the open letter that we did. We've now met his representatives. Unfortunately, there's no movement on season ticket prices, which is incredibly disappointing, which is like, yeah, we heard you, but we still don't care. So, get on with it. Just run along now and carry on keep buying the tickets or don't, and we don't care. That's kind of how I understand it. But, we'll definitely, not just us on the trust, but the fans keep going. Let's keep pushing this. I'm still hopeful of a resolution because I certainly don't want this to continue. This just doesn't represent what, the family ethos of this club really is. And it doesn't really represent what Fulham should be like, really. It's just not the right thing to do. And I believe Fulham should be doing that.
I just feel like, Drew, I read the article and his whole point is Fulham has to be sustainable. And to be sustainable, we have to increase revenues. And getting away from the whole fact that ticket revenue isn't that big a part, it's not even a minute part really of clubs' revenue. I kind of see-ish his point. Like, yes, we do need to be sustainable, but you're driving the sustainability so much. Who do you want us to be sustainable for? You want us to be sustainable for the fans, right? You're so desperate to be sustainable, you're driving out and pissing off the people that you're trying to make us sustainable for, is kind of my reading of it.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a reductive argument, really. It's never been as black and white as that. This sort of sustainability conundrum and this thing that keeps getting peddled out by the club. And I think, you say, taking aside that point about the minute ticket revenue impact, the fact that has been, and I tweeted this, the fact that has been debunked with figures every single time it comes up, it's negligent from Alison Rudd to not challenge Chad on that issue, because she should know that. If she's been reading around the ticket issue to any degree, you'd see that. And it's not just at Fulham; it's at any club where the ticket prices are being raised with that sort of that argument in mind. So it's a shame. It's, to me, the whole piece was Shad's response to the open letters just through the Times. I think he was never going to respond to the open letters. He was going to acknowledge the receipt, which I appreciate is something that I know the Lilies and the FST are like, we're happy that he's acknowledged the receipt. Doesn't mean he's read it. I can acknowledge the receipt of an email. I don't mean I'm reading the damn thing. But there's the original question: do they care? Yes, I think they do. I don't. I think you've always got to sort of look at the bigger picture here. And I'm not saying it could be worse. So let's sit back and take it. I am saying it could be worse. We could have worse owners. I'm not saying they're terrible at all. I'm saying they are tone deaf on certain issues that we care a lot about, and we don't get an open dialogue with them to try and change those. That's irrefutable. But do they care? Yes, I do think they do. I don't think that he's going to sell Craven Cottage and try and sell us down the river or anything like that. I do, and they do invest in the club. But I just think on this issue, for which hits home and is cared about by a lot of people, a lot of the fans, I wish there would be more of an open dialogue on that. But as I think we've seen, we're not going to get that anytime soon.
Just quickly, I just think the bottom line, he should have said that what will make Fulham, and I think we are just starting to see it, a sustainable club, is making the most out of our fantastic academy, our fantastic young academy prospects, our young players. Like, I hate to say it, Brentford have done, Brighton do with their business, not so much with an academy, Southampton have done. And maybe he could have acknowledged that a bit more, that we are starting to work with that better. The likes of Luke Harris, we've dealt with his scenario way better than we have with previous young players. And that, I think, will make Fulham all round a more sustainable club. It's not about catering for millionaires and things like that. I just thought it was tone deaf, as you said.
Yeah. And it is a shame that I feel like the £3,000 tickets got picked up so much in that interview, and that's what he's trying to justify. It's like, I feel like the wider media has picked up on the £3,000 thing, and because it's much more clickbaity and much more headline generating that Fulham have got the most expensive ticket in world football. But I think most fans are much more bothered about the price of their ticket rather than someone else's, and it's a shame that like half that article was about that. And I agree with you, Drew. I think he does care. He doesn't want to he's not trying to turn the cottage into flats or like previous owners. He's not here like the Glazers, and he's put us up to debt up to our eyeballs. Of course he cares. He wants Fulham to be sustainable and profitable and a solid Premier League club. It's in his own interests for it to be that. Let's not forget that. But it's just a shame that he's so blind to this issue. And I was astonished by that article, because I just couldn't believe that was allowed to go out and anyone thought that was going to go down well. I would personally like to see some direct action towards the last few games. I think it's got to that point now where we've tried the dialogue. I think quite clearly it's not working. I think it needs to be led by all parties involved in Fulham, probably by the FST first, if I'm being honest. The Man City game seems like a good opportunity, but that's only a week away. There are a couple more games before the end of the season. It would be a shame if any protest is detrimental to the players or the team, which I think everyone in the club respects at the moment and doesn't want to do anything that would detract from the performance on the pitch. But feel like we need to think of something, because the message has to be sent. And there's so many people angry about this. I've never seen this kind of reaction from this. Even back in the 2018-19, when Stop the Greed all happened, this seems stronger and deeper. And I think that I've seen people care about this that I've never seen care about ticket prices before, which I think says an awful lot. We'll wait and see. If you get a minute to read that article, then probably a good idea, although you might not enjoy it. Right, we're going to take a quick break there. Afterwards, we'll look ahead to Tuesday's game against Villa. Part 3 of the Fulhamish podcast. Sammy here with Drew, Farrell and Izzy. Let's look ahead then to Tuesday night's game against Villa. Midweek football is back. Oh, you've been missed. A Tuesday trip up to Villa Park. And Izzy, the difference of the Villa side that we're facing now to the one that we faced back in October when we spanked them 3-0 at the Cottage. It was Steven Gerrard's last game. We went into that one as just such overwhelming favourites because Villa looked horrendous. And now I'm looking at this one. I mean, I'm just on Who Scored at the moment, looking at Villa's recent results, and it is just a sea of green. Win, win, draw, win, 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 draw. They're very good, and Unai Emery's done an amazing job. Ollie Watkins is scoring goals for fun. This is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think I've spoken to a few of my mates who support Villa, and they actually love Fulham. They love Fulham so much because they think in a weird way we helped them out go on this amazing run, because obviously Gerrard he must have been sacked at the Cottage. I don't know if he had to get the coach back with them or what. It was a crazy evening to report as a journalist. It was such a weird mood. And yeah, the club just looked like they were it was a horror show for them, and the run they've gone on since, Emery's just worked wonders. I reported on one of their games recently, the Leicester game. They just are blistering from start to finish, look menacing throughout, got a last gasp winner then. And Ollie Watkins is looking so menacing under Emery. I think he's one to watch. He's just got so much confidence out of this group of players that looked so dishevelled when they came to the Cottage. So I'm worried about this one. I've got to say, I think out of all the teams, I'm probably the team that I would pip to predict to beat us the most, facing them next. I am worried about this one.
Yeah, I mean, Farrell, you see Villa, I mean, it's their defence, I think this is so impressive as well. Konza and Mings, like two of the best centre-backs in the league at the moment. Like, what has Emery done? He's got like secret potions or something. How have you managed to sew something out of them two? It's incredible, really. Ashley Young's right back. Like, they're just doing an amazing job with a limited squad. I guess a bit like our very own manager.
Yeah, what I've been quite impressed with is the change in sort of style and that belief that Emery has installed throughout the entire team. Because we saw in the reverse fixture how sort of meek and standoffish Villa were. They sort of now sort of play with a bit of energy and a bit of style, and they're getting the best out of players that were not necessarily playing at their best. Buendia has had like a big, massive return to form. Leon Bailey did as well before he got injured. John McGinn is re-energized again with such a high energy player. And as we've seen with Ollie Watkins, like he's now on a massive goal scoring form. And I think that sort of just transpires throughout the entire team and breathes confidence into players like Tyrone Mings, who had a torrid time at the Cottage last time around. And yeah, I think that, yeah, it's just that confidence going through the team now. And they are playing with a new style that's really, really full of energy. And yeah, and maybe smaller things like letting Danny Ings go was probably like a bit of a masterstroke, because, he's such a good striker, but they have to sort of play to his strengths, and it's not that high energy system, and they can utilize Ollie Watkins a bit better, really. So I don't know how Fulham are going to sort of set themselves up. It's now notorious that we play so much better against the teams lower down instead of the teams above us. Maybe Marco Silva would opt for a more defensive style, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I still think we're gonna play exactly the same way as we have been, and hopefully we can get something from it.
I mean, Drew, you might imagine that we'll go back a little bit to the Everton system. I think that's what potentially could work here. Villa are going to have quite a lot of the ball on Tuesday, and Fulham are going to be a bit second best, and so it might be a little bit try and break on the counter might be Fulham's best strategy here, and Dan James, for all his faults, running down the channels, being the quick man up top, is probably the man to do that. Obviously, like, we'd rather have Mitrovic back. I don't think it would be like, we'd put Dan James in above him, but in the scenario, I think actually that could work.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Brighton earlier on in the season, and I think we famously tried the BDR false nine for the first time then, but I think we've managed to get our house in order a little bit better than with our non-Mitcho options. So I think we're going into this one slightly better equipped with shuffling the deck the way that we need to without Mitcho. So I think we could, I think we could get a point there. I'd be quite happy with that. I mean, you think before they went on this winning run, they lost 4-2 at home to Leicester, I think, before they went on this little mini winning run. So they can be got at home even with Emery, and all runs have to come to an end eventually. They're second in the form table behind City. I think it would have been joint top if they hadn't have drawn with Brentford. So maybe that draw is signs of things slowing somewhat. Who knows? I'm probably just wishful thinking here, but they're not going to win every game from now to the end of the season, and they can be beaten at home. So why not by us?
Yeah, and I think maybe the Brighton strategy, look, we held on in that Brighton game. There's no denying it, but Fulham were quite savvy in that game. Yes, okay, it was a little bit of dark arts, it was a little bit of luck, but also we held on. And if you frustrate this Villa crowd, I think if you can get to 60 minutes still 0-0, then Fulham might grow in confidence. It would just be about weathering that storm. Can we nick one, etc. I think it's going to be one of those games for Fulham. And Fulham do have that capability in their arsenal to kind of go to difficult grounds, weather it, frustrate them. We did it so well at Old Trafford, obviously, until it all fell apart a few weeks ago. So I don't think it's impossible. But yeah, it's looking mighty, mighty difficult. You'd imagine, Izzy, that other than Dan James coming back in, it's probably going to be the same 11. I can't see a huge amount of changes. Maybe Diop in for Tosin, maybe.
Just from watching the Leeds game, I'd definitely keep Tosin in. Seems really confident. Seemed like he was in a great mood after the match as well. So definitely keep him in. But yeah, like you say, I think the only change I'd make would be bring Dan James in. Like I said, Bobby wasn't terrible or anything like that, but I just think he's so lively, and the problems caused by Dan James's pace can make all the difference, and it could make all the difference against a team like Villa. So I would bring him back in.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see how we go on Tuesday. A nice little trip up to Villa Park. My first time to Villa Park. So I'm quite excited to make the trip up to
Last time I went
Birmingham.
to Villa Park, Brentford got beaten about 5-1, I think. So I've got very happy memories of Villa Park. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen to us this Tuesday. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going. Another stadium ticked off the list. I think I've nearly done all the Premier League grounds now. I think that's pretty much my last one from all the teams in the Premier League, which so I'm excited to get that one off the list on Tuesday. Farrell, what would you like to go with as today's podcast name?
Well, yeah, carrying on for what Izzy was saying about her last trip to Villa Park when Brentford got beaten by the Villains, and yesterday when they got their late equaliser at the G-Tech Lego Stadium, and means that now Fulham are top of the West London League. I'm going to have to go for Lindsay's leading West London.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. I thought that was a particularly good one. We will be back on Thursday for the Thursday Club. Myself, Jack, and Sonia's back for this week's show as well, looking back at that game and everything that happens in it, and then previewing the big one, the easy match of the season, Manchester City at home. So join us then for that. Please get your tickets for the Fulhamish Live. We'd love to see you there on the 8th of May, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you very much to my guest today, to Drew Heatley. Thank you.
Cheers, Sammy.
Izzy Barker, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me on.
And Farrell Monk, thank you.
Muchas gracias, Sammy.
Hey, have a great start to your week. Come on, you whites.